Matt Chapman just signed with the San Francisco Giants. Could the Mariners turn to one of the Giants' infielders in a trade, depending on what's happening over at third base? Also, we're going to go into some injury updates on guys like Matt Brash and Luis Urias, and we're going to finish things up here with talking about why you should not panic about how poorly the Mariners have played this spring. They're 1-7 right now. It's not looking pretty, but we'll tell you why it's not that big of a deal. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 66 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, the Fleming Baez episode of the Hit It Here podcast. And I'm here with Joe. Joe, how are you?
I have never heard that name ever in my life. Leave a like on this video if you have. And don't put Krog in a bad situation like last time. He didn't want to be the 70th like because it was stuck at 69. So smash the like button, guys. And if you guys are on the audio platform, leave us a 5-star review. It'd be greatly appreciated. It'd make me feel better. But I don't really need to feel better right now, Colton, because I'm doing pretty well. I will be doing better though once you explain whatever name you said.
Fleming Baez.
Whomst.
So when you go on the baseball almanac, there are only two people that have ever worn number 66 for the Seattle Mariners that have played a game. However, Fleming Baez is the bullpen catcher for the Seattle Mariners. And I was sitting there and I'm like, pretty sure he wears number 66. Had to go look it up. Lo and behold, Fleming Baez wears number 66.
Are we counting that? I think we're counting.
I'm counting that.
Yeah, we can count it.
It's a Mariners jersey with 66 on the back.
That's all that counts. And maybe, if the Mariners had signed Matt Chapman, he could have filled that role. But instead, he signed with the Giants. He wasn't going to wear number 6. It's a transition. Don't worry about it. He signed with the Giants, 3 years, $54 million, $20 million in the first year, $18 million in the second, $16 million in the third. But there are opt-outs. A contract that maybe some Mariners fans wanted us to give to Matt Chapman in some capacity. Definitely the opt-out deals are all the rage as the, offseason should be done. And because we're in spring training by now at this point. But with the Giants, there is a bit of a crowded infield, it would seem now. And Colton, there are some guys that maybe the Mariners should have on their radar throughout, the rest of this spring to kind of see if they're gauging how their infield is looking, specifically at third base. The Giants have some guys that now Matt Chapman's there. They don't really need on their major league roster. Colton, I have an idea. You need to say one name from that infield. And I'm going to tell you where I'd place a bet on it if I were to place a bet on your name that you're going to say. So you say that name after a quick word from Bet Online. It is March, and that means one of the biggest sporting events is about to get underway. Spring training for baseball is here, baby. I'm kidding. March Madness, you guys all know. If you are a sports fan, you likely make some sort of bracket, some sort of prediction for March Madness. You want to do something a little bit more with it, maybe place a bet on it. The place to do it is obviously Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and, like I'm saying, college hoops throughout the year. Specifically the month of March is a banger. If you want to pick that round 13 and 14 seed upset, that's the time to do it. Whoever's getting upset this year, place that bet on Bet Online. They've got up to the minute odds, stats, and trends so you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs or through into the Sweet 16, if you will, with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props available. And remember, head to Bet Online today to become part of the team. And remember to use promo code Bleav, BLEAV, for 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online. The game starts here.
J.D. Davis.
So last year, J.D. Davis in 2023 for the San Francisco Giants played in 144 games, had a 248, 325, 413 slash with a 738 OPS. If you want to go to the OPS plus, he's got a 103. So just above league average. He would be a right-handed platoon to our lefty complement over there of Josh Rojas. Say Luis Urias doesn't necessarily fit. And as it stands right now, I feel like a lot of Mariners fans are kind of already tired of Luis Urias in some capacity. Whether or not he's had a real shot to prove himself is yet to be seen. But Colton, J.D. Davis is on the short list of third basemen that are probably available via trade out there that would be probably an upgrade over Urias to start the year. Would you agree?
I would say yes, just because Davis has been more consistent throughout his career. Whereas, obviously we saw Urias with a good year. What was it, 2 years ago now?
2021 and 2022 were pretty good, but
a couple good years for him in those years. But at the same time, J.D. Davis, he's not like, he's not going to blow you out of the water. Like, it's not going to cost, in my opinion, because it's only a 1-year rental. It's not going to cost, you a lot, in my opinion, to get JD Davis. Maybe like a couple of guys like in between like 15 to 20 range in your prospects, maybe.
Hmm.
And even then, like, I don't really know for a 1 year deal for JD Davis. I think that he's a guy that we had talked about earlier in the offseason to pair with Josh Rojas to begin with after we knew that Gino was gone. And I think that he fits well because we know that he can hit in Oracle Park. And so I think that it would make
True.
sense, he'd be able to hit here in Seattle. As for the fit, I'm not necessarily. I'm not out on Luis Urias yet. I know a lot of people are, and
Hmm.
I know that a lot of people, hit the article about him showing up in less than ideal shape or whatever it was, just threw people in a tizzy. But I think that overall, what the potential of Luis Urias, I think, is higher than JD Davis, but I think the consistency of JD Davis is more important than Luis Urias. So if Luis Urias is hurt, then I think it would make sense to go out there and try to acquire someone like JD Davis.
I have one stat that I think will win you over, like automatically. Okay, runs batted in 2023. JD Davis, 69.
Oh, okay. Yep. No, go get him.
Yep, he's in. Like, get him in. Get him in like tomorrow, yesterday, even
That's
if you wanted
the only number you could have said that would have made me say,
to. Oh, I know.
you could have said 150. I'm like, I don't care.
Doesn't matter. He could have set the major league record, breaking what Hack Wilson has the record or something great.
Yep.
Whatever
Mhm.
names out there. So JD Davis, he's only ever posted an OPS plus below 100 in his career one time in 2018 with the Astros, and he only played in 42 games. Most recently, like I said, 103. His second half with the Giants in 2022 after they acquired him put up a 142 OPS plus. Like, dude was hitting. He he's got some sneaky pop. Like, it's nothing crazy. Like, 22 is his career high in a single season. But as far as we're talking about, like you mentioned, we wanted him as that platoon partner with Josh Rojas. If he's a guy that we can bring in to just smash lefties, like, it's not that much better than his righty splits, but like, it's gonna be better than what Josh Rojas is gonna go do, right? So like, maybe if he's in not in an everyday role, because he was pretty much in an everyday role with the Giants, 144 games, like that's the most of the season. Say he's limited down to like 100. Will his will his stats against left-handed pitching be a bit more competitive? I'd probably say so. But there's also another guy, a little bit less valuable position because JD Davis is third. He can also be your backup first baseman if you needed to, maybe even just further behind Luke Raley as well. But JD Davis has also played in the outfield. The other guy that's probably on the outside looking in for some playing time with the Giants infield is now Wilmer Flores, a guy that I would compare to like Donovan Solano in some capacity. First, second, and third base listed on Baseball Reference, but he's mainly like second base and first base. Like third base, I don't think he's played it a ton. Oh no, he played it. That was his second most played position last year, besides DH. But first base he played in 61 games, and at third he played in 22. Second base he only played in 6. So first base, third base, it's not the crazy big pop that you'd want from your corner infielder, but he is a backup guy. He'd be a platoon type person for Josh Rojas there with him. And last year, he was actually really like sneakily good. You're talking about consistency with JD Davis. OPS pluses since 2016 for Wilmer Flores: 111, 109, 105, 118, 124, 111, 101, 136. All start with one. Most of those years, he's playing in at least in 120 games. So it's like he's been pretty consistent. Popped 23 homers last year. That's surprising to me. So Wilmer Flores, I don't know if he'd be cheaper than JD Davis because they're both just 1 year, like 1 year rentals basically. But another guy to just kind of keep your eye out for.
How old is Wilmer Flores?
32.
Really? If I feel like he's been around forever.
JD
You know,
Davis is 30.
30?
30. I mean, Wilmer Flores has been playing since 2013. Like, he is going on a decade.
Huh. Yeah, it feels like, I remember when he broke his leg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, or did he break someone's leg?
His leg got broken by Chase
Right,
Utley.
by Chase Utley. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I don't know. I think both are a good fit. I think that defensively, you'd rather have JD Davis over there at third base than Wilmer Flores. There's a reason why he was mainly a DH last year, other than the fact that, again, like you said, their infield was pretty crowded. Obviously, you have like what Thairo Estrada's in that infield, Lamont Wade Jr.'s in that infield. Like now, obviously, you had throw Matt Chapman in there, JD Davis, whatnot. There, I would assume that one of these guys is probably going to get traded.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be right away because you can still stash these guys on your bench. But if you're looking to, and especially if you're the Giants, are you comfortable with your team to the point where you think you can really compete this year versus the Dodgers and even versus the Padres and versus the Diamondbacks?
Maybe not,
If
just like with how it's like constructed, but I get where you're going. Maybe if they win
I
the Snell sweepstakes, get
right.
another opt-out type free agent. Before you continue, I know I'm gonna backpedal a little bit. Wilmer Flores was the guy that got traded and was crying. Ruben
Yep.
Tejada is the guy that got his leg broken.
Oh, okay.
But
Got it. Got
both
it. Got it.
both
Got it.
Mets,
Same team.
both
Same team.
Mets.
Same
Yeah.
team.
Continue.
JD
Sorry.
Davis was also on the Mets. I can't wait for Jeff McNeil to be on the Giants later.
A little Twilight Zone here.
Yes, I don't know. I think that either guy is fine, in my opinion. And I don't obviously I don't think they're going to get traded right now. I would think it'd be probably like a May move, before the
Okay.
like a while before the trade deadline. But maybe as teams like the Mariners, for example, depending on what they see with Luis Urias, if he does, if he is hurt and he can't or he's not producing, then a team like the Mariners is going to be looking for him. And as teams get towards the end of spring training, you start to hear about more injuries. All of a sudden, teams have more needs that start to crop up. And I think that now, okay, well, what do teams have that's a surplus? Okay, let's go call the Giants. They have Wilmer Flores, they have JD Davis. So I don't necessarily know if right now is the time that even the Giants would think about trading them, but I would assume that at least one of them is gone by the All-Star break.
Like if they don't trade either of them, their bench is stacked. Like Tom Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
JD Davis, Wilmer Flores, Austin Slater. Like all very good bench pieces. If you can find leverage to improve your pitching by any means, you probably do that if you're the Giants, just because I feel like they might need a little bit more help there. But I mean, they've added Jordan Hicks. Like it's I don't know. I get what you're saying though. Like wait a little bit, hold on to your hand, assess, and then make a deal if you need to. And I think the same can go for the Mariners as well. Like we don't know really what we're going to get out of Urias quite yet. He hit a triple. I mean, it was an ugly triple because the left fielder kind of misplayed the ball, but I don't know. It seems like if we're abandoning ship already, that just it's a too soon like knee jerk reaction for me.
I agree with that. I think that especially because we haven't even seen Urias in the field yet, and we
Huh.
talked about we talked about Urias and Rojas over there at third earlier in the offseason before the Jorge Polanco deal. I think that you roll with what you have right now if you're the Seattle Mariners and you wait and see. And if you need to make a move, come opening day, then you do it. And that kind of goes into our next topic, which is injury concerns with somebody like Luis Urias. So we heard that his shoulder was less than
Less than ideal.
stellar, ideal right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, he was not able to throw across the diamond. We did hear that Scott said that Urias was going to be in the game on Tuesday in the split squad game, so that's a good sign, I'd
Mm-hmm.
say. I think that a lot of the JD Davis Wilmer Flores talk is contingent on what happens with Urias' shoulder. Is he able to play in the field? Because if he's not, there's really, in my opinion, no point in rostering him. You start him on the IL and call it. And then you have Rojas and maybe Dylan Moore at third base. If his shoulder is fine, then cool. You run him out there, you see what he can do, and then, a month into the season, if he's sucking or if he's just hurting, then go make a trade. And I think that the fact that a lot of this is contingent on Urias is not a bad thing because it's not like he's some super important piece to the Mariners. Like I wouldn't say he's easily replaceable, but he's kind of easily replaceable when it comes to you could honestly fill from within. I think that Dylan Moore is a more than fine fill in as a right-handed platoon with Josh Rojas over there at third base for the price.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, did we talk about how much they're getting paid?
Wilmer Flores is getting paid $3.5 million, so like, I think pretty easily acquirable. And Colton, I have good news about JD Davis. Um, the stat that I said was uber important on why we need to acquire him. It's doubly important now, maybe even triply if we want to get there. He's getting paid $6.9 million. ARB4. Like, you're kidding, right?
Make it happen. Go make the trade now. I'm done with Urias. I'm done with Dillabor. Get rid of all of them.
You know,
You know what? Put Davis in center. Julio's out.
let's not be rash here, okay? Let's not get
I I
crazy.
I think that when it comes to, obviously we know that the Mariners' budgetary constraints, what they're working with. And I don't know exactly how much Urias is getting paid. I think it's like 1.5 million or something like that. Doesn't matter.
No,
But
he's
we
getting
know.
$5 million.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Oh,
Arb was projected at like 4.3, and then they settled at 5.
got it.
I think.
That's too much.
It's not fine anymore.
It's not 6.9 million. So.
Yeah, could be better.
I'd rather pay more
Personally, for a guy that could be better.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, Urias needs to hit, and he needs to be able to play the field. Otherwise, you have Tommy La Stella on your roster again.
Yeah, and you also now have Mitch Garver, who has to be your DH. Like in the spring training games that we've seen Urias, it's like he's only DHing, and I get why, just because you want him to get some reps, get some time, taking some ABs. But when it comes to regular season, there's no place for that. There's no place for him to be stepping in over Mitch Garver, and you don't want Garver behind the plate like that early. Like you need to spread out his appearances catching. If he makes like 15 to 20, that's probably like the upper bound of what I would want out of Mitch Garver. And I can understand why it could happen if they really need his bat. But those 15 to 20 games, whatever, like, are we really then going to be like, oh, we've got a spot for Luis Urias now? Like, no, dude needs to be able to play the field, or he needs to get off the team. Unfortunately, it's like just the fact of the matter. I don't disagree with you that like Dylan Moore could be a sound replacement as well. Even like if you're looking to further into the minor leagues, like, or guys that are just popping in spring that are, just hitting really well, like Ryan. Look, I'm not gonna say Cole Young. I'm not crazy.
I'm mad that you're saying Ryan Bliss.
I'm saying
I'm mad that you're pushing the people's narrative.
I'm not pushing the people's narrative. I'm just saying push comes to shove, we're pushing the narrative in that we're shoving the narrative in that sense. There's people there to fill it out. It's not like the end of the world where you have to go make this impulse trade, is what I'm trying to say. Not that, I would rather have Ryan Bliss over JD Davis and what it would cost to acquire JD Davis or Wilmer Flores, because it wouldn't be that much. I agree with you. So, just like, I think pump the brakes a little bit, because like the injury concern isn't as bad as we originally thought of, like what Divish was writing. Like, he's like immediately going to be on the IL to start the year. And it's like, okay, now he's going to be playing like third base in a game on Tuesday. Like, where's what happened developmentally to now he's fine in the field? It'll be interesting to see what happens. Or maybe he's going to be playing second. I don't know. Like maybe he's making shorter throws across the diamond, and then they would move Polanco to third, because Polanco did that last year for the Twins for like 20-ish games. Like he played like 20 games there, I think. So it's a possibility. But the bigger injury news, I think, unless you don't want to move on.
No, I'm ready, yeah.
Is that Matt Brash's elbow is not toast yet. It's okay for now, right? I think the best news we could have gotten out of what the reports were saying, because obviously you hear elbow injury with a pitcher with as like, how do I, like, it seems like there's a lot of strain on his elbow quite often with the way he pitches, if that makes sense. You hear elbow injury, it's like, okay, he's done. Like, he's toast. Like, it's GG. We're done. Like, pack it in. Matt Brash, the slider god, is no longer appearing for the Seattle Mariners in 2024. However, it's just some elbow inflammation, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, we all just kind of assumed that it was going to be Tommy John, because that's what we were hearing. We were hearing that it was bad and that, he might miss the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that rightfully so. I mean, that's what we heard. Like you said, anytime you see an elbow concern with a guy like that, you just immediately think the worst. But apparently he's had this elbow inflammation in the past, so which is a good sign, I think. Like, maybe it's a good thing that he's had it in the past. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is he's never had to have Tommy John because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the elbow is still structurally sound, as long as he's able to, because they said that he should be able to start his throwing program at this point sometime this week,
Mm-hmm.
which it doesn't bode well for opening day. He will not be on. He'll be on the injured list to begin the season. I would assume, just because he doesn't have his full ramp up yet. But I would assume that maybe come late April that Matt Brash could be back.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with Gregory Santos, we're still kind of unsure on his, where he's at when it comes to making the opening day roster as well. But Matt Brash is very, very important to this Mariners bullpen. And the fact that it ended up just being elbow inflammation, which he said that he's dealt with in the past, is far and away much better than I expected. And we have to give a shout out to Steve.
Shout out Steve.
Shout out Steve, because we were holding him to the fact that Matt Brash was going to not miss significant time, and Steve was right.
Steve pulled through. Yeah, I think you're right in the general ballpark of April, end of April. I think I said early May when we were streaming earlier. Just like give him a month to really ramp up, get everything sorted, because the last thing you want to do is aggravate it more by rushing him. Like that's just malpractice, it seems like. And so, same thing with Santos. Like, you're worried about him maybe not making opening day or being ready for it. It seems like he's on a pretty solid track right now. Whether or not he's on the injured list to start the year, I doubt it. I'd say they'd probably just like have him there, but like not pitching really like the first week, maybe, if they're still a little bit concerned about it. But yeah, Matt Brash, like the fact that we got good news, or I guess relatively good news about both players that, sure, like you're saying, like Urias isn't like that hard of like a bat to replace necessarily. He's the weak side platoon, if you're really looking at it that way. But the fact that it's not this terrible thing where we have to make a knee-jerk reactionary move, whatever, it's good. And same thing with Brash, because like you lose Brash, are we then like forced to then go out and try and sign somebody or make another trade? Like, you don't want to have to do that, especially after the offseason that you've had of like trying to like regain like your entire roster, trying to figure out like how to make it all piece together. And then one of the most, I think, important pieces, at least on the pitching side, is then done for the year. Like the fact that it's probably only a month, he's only going to miss what, like 12 to like 18 innings, probably, like realistically, like you pitch in a calendar month if you're a reliever. So big dubs for Mariners fans on that front.
And I think when it comes to the back end of this Mariners bullpen, they're still in a decent spot. Even if Matt Brash and Gregory Santos are not ready for opening day, I think that overall we've seen some positive things out of, again, guys like Jackson Kowar and guys like, I don't know, who's another one? Mauricio Llovera. Did he look good today?
He gave up 2 earned today. The narrative has fallen off for Llovera a little bit. Kowar, like you're saying, still good. I feel like Gabe Spire had a bad outing, I think 2 days ago at this point, but I'd say I'm not worried about him.
He's on the roster.
Yeah, like
whatever.
he will be fine. I think it'll be okay to start the year. I'm not like super crazy worried about it, because even if, say, like Vargas doesn't make the roster because he had a poor outing on Sunday's game, like you've got other arms to kind of fill in for the time being to let him kind of like dial it in if you really need to. Like Joey Crable's still available, Ty Buttry's available, so like there are names that you can kind of fill out with to start the year. And that's, last year with the Mariners, like the beginning of the year with the bullpen, like there were a couple names in there that did not see much past what, May, even Matt Festa, Diego Castillo. Like there are names that you might forget that they were there because they're only there for a short time, but the bullpen will sort itself out.
Yeah. And I think that kind of lends itself to, why are the Mariners so bad this spring? Why are the Mariners currently 1-7? And I hear you guys in the comments, and I hear you guys in our DMs, and I hear you guys screaming from the rooftops in Seattle. Oh my God, the Mariners are 1-7.
Why?
This is the end. This is the end. It has no indication of what this team is going to be in the regular season, because, for example, in today's game, we're recording this on Sunday night. Today's game, Colin Snyder gave up like 5 or 6 earned runs,
but he was fine in the previous 2 outings that he made, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I care that Colin Snyder gave up 5 or 6 runs? No, because he probably doesn't factor into this roster. Like, George Kirby didn't have a great outing. Do I care? No, because he was trying to. Or was it Kirby or Logan that didn't have a good outing? Logan had a good outing.
Kirby had a bad one.
Yeah. So
less than desirable.
Kirby said after the game that he's just trying to make sure that he can locate his secondary pitches.
Mm-hmm.
That's what guys are doing in spring training. That's what it is. Like Bryce Miller was, he used through his new splitter like what 5 or 6 times in the second inning. Okay, like I don't care. Guys are working on things in spring training, and you see guys like I don't even have a good example of someone that you will never hear from again.
I mean, Holden
But
Laws is a guy that he got the first round of roster cuts, kind of deservedly so, like in the with the utmost of respect. But
yeah,
dude just didn't have it. They saw enough and they're like, okay, go back to minor league camp and we can work on stuff there. Because
hmm
that's what spring training's for. You're there to work and hone your craft, and there are guys that they obviously are having participate at the tail end of many of the games that end up, losing and blowing some of those leads. Like they could be what, 3-4? That's not how the math works. 3-5 probably if they don't let like Juan Mercedes and Holden Laws try and finish out a game.
yeah,
If
exactly.
they
And
try and give Andres Munoz the ninth, then sure, it's locked down. But instead, he's pitching in the fourth inning because why not?
because who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that when there are actual reasons for concern, it's not about the outcome of the game because the outcome of the game is like a culmination of like 25 different dudes. Some of them that are 18 years old, some of them that are 50 years
Like
old.
Casey Lawrence had a pretty bad outing, I'm pretty sure, on
hmm
what was it, Saturday? I can't remember. But I just saw him and I'm like, oh, that's an old man not doing well in spring training. Like,
Yeah.
rough compared to like the 18-year-old that you're saying is like getting his first chance at like pro ball in a sense of going through the struggles there, but there's like potential and like room for growth. Like some guys, it's like a last ditch effort situation or guys trying to make a comeback. So yeah, it's like the culmination of those guys ending up in losses. It's not so what's important. What I think you're going to lead into is like the individual things that people are working on or things that they're trying to work on not going in their favor. Some important
Right.
ones like Carlos Vargas, for example, in Sunday's game, not being able to locate hitting batters, just didn't look sharp. And that's a guy that with Matt Brash down probably for a month, you'd like for him to be able to factor in your pen because he does have electric stuff. We've seen it. Bullpens have been, raved about for him. But if he can't locate in game, there's no use for him.
hmm And I think about guys like some people you shouldn't worry about. Like, don't worry about JP Crawford. Like, is he what's he like 0 for 10 or something right now?
Yeah.
Is he seeing deep counts? Yes. Is he grounding out? Sure. It is what it is. JP, he'll get his swing right and he'll be right back to where he was last year, ideally. Um, but yeah, I agree. Guys like Carlos Vargas, when you look at them, when they have obvious flaws and they don't look like those flaws have been fixed, then yes, then you can go in and say, okay, this is something we need to work out. Because if it's something that you saw in the regular season last year and it's still happening now, then sure. I don't have a good like if Julio went up there and was still swinging at sliders in the left-handed batter's box, like if he went up there and did that every single time, then sure,
Mm-hmm.
there's a problem. But like I don't think that there's any room to read into how poorly guys are doing right now simply because they're all working on things. They're all, especially the pitchers, they're all trying, they're just trying to locate, man. And I think that the pitchers are always a little bit ahead of hitters anyway. I think that's a pretty common
Theme.
like yeah, theme for
Mm-hmm.
spring training. And hitters start slow. Like we saw Mitch Garver, he hit a home run, right? A big home run. But
I think he's over
otherwise,
since.
yeah. So I don't know. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion. I know that people think that spring training stats are just the end all be all, but let's take a step back. I think everything regresses to the mean. Someone's doing really bad. I'm not. What my worry is here in the middle. Like let's
Mm-hmm.
say this is my
Worry.
neutral zone.
Oh, your worry meter.
This is my worry meter. It's really bad. I'm here
Uh
if
huh.
this is the middle. And then if they're doing really good, I'm here.
Oh, a
I'm
little
like,
bit. Yeah, you're playing. A little bit more cautious on the good there. I think what's hard to sometimes navigate is because like, obviously we care about the team winning. If they were 7-1, we shut up about them being 7-1? Maybe not, because it depends like how people are going. But it's more so like what's going right for them to be 7-1. And so I understand like the frustrations. Like, what else are you supposed to say about the team other than, oh, they're 1-7? Like, why are they 1-7? It's just the guys that are not factoring into your roster are likely giving the game away. Like if there was like WPA, like wins probability added or whatever that stat is on half of the guys that are non-roster competitive players, they're going to have the worst ones out of anybody on the team. And when we look at guys that like JP that are over or Mitch Garver who's like struggling, but then you see guys like Josh Rojas are doing well. It's like, okay, why aren't the other guys doing well? It's just, spring training is kind of an interesting bag of worms where you can kind of pick on the fun stuff. Like you can kind of pick stuff out and be like, oh, Cole Young's hitting 420, lit. But then, yeah, it's a bad number to say specifically,
Lit.
unintentional. But that's a young guy that's just a prospect that's like, whoa, hell yeah, like he's doing great. But Harry Ford's hitting 200, so it's the same young guy. Like, what's his problem? Why isn't he hitting 400 like Cole Young is? Why is Isaiah Gilliam over? It's spring training. They're kind of going through the motions, trying to get their feet underneath them a bit.
For example, in 2001, the Seattle Mariners finished spring training 13-19, below 500.
Ugh.
And they went on to tie the record for the most wins in a single season. Spring training wins do not matter. But you know what does matter, Joe?
What's that, bro?
It's this video on the screen right now. And I think the people should go watch it.
This one?
That's the one.
That's crazy.
Appreciate you guys watching episode 66 of the Hit It Here podcast presented by Bet Online. The Tyler Olson episode, shout out Dadara, of the Hit It Here podcast, and go Mariners.